When you show up and vote in November, it'll actually be voting for electors. So your vote will go to an elector, they'll hold your vote, and they'll eventually turn it in for you later. So we're going to look at how that process works. So the ballot will have the candidate's name, you'll vote for the candidate, but your vote will be held by an elector in which they will turn in at a later point. And so that's what we're going to be looking at, is how does that process work at the state level and the national level. Created the Electoral College because they felt the general population was not capable of making wise decisions. So they looked at the general population of the U.S. at the beginning of our government, when our government was created, around 1800s, and they decided that the general population was not capable of making wise decisions, not capable of choosing good leaders. Okay, our first gut reaction is that we get that nasty feeling, oh, it's kind of like this conspiracy. They didn't want people to have power. But let's think of it from their perspectives. Think about the time period, the 1800s. Why would they think that? What would make them think that the general population was not capable of making wise decisions? Do you have it? Yes. All right, what's your guess?
Like a large portion of the population wasn't very well educated, and therefore wasn't actually thinking on a real level about individuals. So
exactly. The general population was not well educated. We didn't have a public school system in place yet. It was only private, meaning you had to have money to be educated. So the majority of Americans were not educated enough to be thinking on a political level, like Jordan said, so therefore they would not be capable of making good decisions. There's another reason though. Think geographically. Hypothetically, you have DC up here, where the elections will take place, where where a lot of the political stuff is going on, and you're in Georgia, way down here. Why would you, if you live out in the rural areas of Georgia, not be able to make a good decision about who should be president? Yes?
There's no TV.
Yes, no media. Okay, there's no media. There's no good way to get the information out about the candidates. You also have to think about travel time. Okay, how long it would take them to travel by horse or by boat from DC, these candidates, to the rural areas of the country to talk about what they believe in, to give speeches. Okay, now it's easier. You just turn on the TV right now, any news station, and that's all they're talking about right now. Is what do these three people believe in? What is their approach? What's going on with the campaign? What's new in the campaign? We are so used to instant information, and we kind of forget that it wasn't always like that. So now let's look at the state level. How does it work at the state level? And we're going to use Tennessee as an example. In Tennessee, we get 11 electoral votes. Now that may seem like a random number, but it's not. Each state gets the same number of electoral votes as they have senators and representatives. So in the state of Tennessee, we know that every state gets 2 senators. That means we must have 9 representatives in the House. And that's where we get the number 11. Now remember, representatives, the House of Representatives, is based on population, so the bigger states have more. For example, California is the biggest, so it has 55 electoral votes. So if you're a candidate, where would you like to spend more time, in Tennessee or California? Yeah, because they have more electoral votes, so therefore your time is better put to use in a bigger state. Okay, so that, I always get questions. So a candidate is looking for this magic number right here, 270 electoral votes. Once they get 270 electoral votes, they have officially won the election, because that's one more than half. So all they need to do is get the majority of electoral votes, and they win the general election. So in this upcoming November, that's what they'll be talking about. They'll be talking about this number right here, 270. How close are they to 270? How close are they to winning the election? What's the least amount of states you think a candidate has to win in order to win the election? 8? 23? 6. Okay. What do you got?
4.
4. Okay. 1, yeah.
I think this is California.
Okay. So we'll start with the biggest and count them down until we get to 270. So California, you get 55. Texas, 34. New York, 31. 27 in Florida. 21 in Pennsylvania. Illinois, Ohio, Michigan, Jersey, and Carolina, and you have and Georgia, and you get 271. So the answer is 11. You got the closest. Yeah, good. So you only need to earn 11 states electoral votes, and you can win. Let's examine it a little bit closer. The state that decided the election was Florida. Florida decided the election. If Gore had won Florida, Gore would have been president. So basically it came down to whoever won Florida. The state of Florida was decided by 200 votes. Meaning if 200 people, extra people, had just shown up and decided to vote for Gore, it would have totally changed who won this election. So think about that. 200 people decided the outcome of the 2000 presidential election.
Wow.
If 200 more people had showed up, we would never have had Bush and we would have had Gore. Okay, so if that's not a reason to vote, then I don't know what is. Okay? That's 200 people.
That's our school.
Yeah, exactly. That's half of the senior class.
Wow.
So let's look at some of the reasons why people think the Electoral College sucks.
Yeah, based on like the size of the state. So like a state would have multiple districts inside of it, just to get rid of the electoral votes. So like, and each district has 1 vote, and then the state has 2 bonus votes. So if you win the majority of the state, you get the 2 bonus votes plus whatever districts you want.
How long would doing that take?
Didn't really get a snap sheet. But it would seem like it would take a bit longer than what we have now.
So there's 5 districts per state. 50 times 5 is 250 different separate voting processes.
Yeah, you have to tally it.
And it depends on the size of the state too.
And it would fragment their system as well, like because you could have people like Ron Paul, who's only getting 2.7% of the vote on the screen. With the Electoral College, he would get a lot more, or with a district plan, he would get a lot more votes because districts would eventually break up, and then every district would vote for different people, and you'd have all sorts of different factions. It would take forever, and then the larger factions would have to try and make concessions to the smaller factions. Fragment our
You have
system.
a situation like what happened to Bush and Al Gore. Al Gore had the most popular vote, but still lost. In that case, he would have, if the bonus plan was in effect, he would have gotten more electoral votes. He would have had a better chance. So it gives the one who has the popular vote the most advantage.
Most of them seem to have really good sides, and when you look at the disadvantages, it kind of just kills it. Like the one I did, which was the direct vote, it talks about of how every vote would be equal. So one person would be 1 vote, and then whoever receives the most votes wins. But then too many factions would come up because Louisiana tried this with their governors, and at the final stretch they had a KKK member running for it and a crook, and the crook won, but he still went to jail because he did a very poor job, and I believe he broke a couple things. Yeah. So this would just separate the U.S. more. I was kind of liking the bonus plan, but then it just makes the loser feel even worse, and that's never really a good